Fries are done. Whoa! So is the camera. On today's 8th episode of the Chambler Build Series, I finally get to cutting all the Cherokee sheet metal flooring out to get everything leveled out as best I can, and I address a lot of the problems with the front end, which means I find more of them. Lots of cutting, lots of needle scaling, lots of stuff. Very fun episode. It's the last episode before you start seeing stuff like this, where I'm leveling things out. Biggest thing you're going to see next is in there. It's time to start cleaning and cutting the materials to figure out what size patch panels I need. I'm going to run all this junk down with a needle scaler so I can figure out where I'm going to cut the Cherokee so I get a good size for my buddy so he can cut it on his plasma table. I've dejunked everything on this side. I'm going to head over to the passenger side. I even got into the Rambler fenders because I don't know where I'm going to go with cutting it. I'm going to go ahead and mark this line. It's about a ½ inch outside of that bead roll edge. Then I'm going to come in and try to cut this thing as straight as I can. Give me something better to work with. It will not be perfect. It'll be a heck of a lot better than whatever the heck he's got going on here. I actually got some correct air saw blades because regular metal cutting jigsaw blades wouldn't work with this very well, so we'll see how these new blades do. Let's get to it. I had planned on continuing the cut back down the chassis. I'm going to have to wait on that for a bit because the more I dig into the front, the more I realize that this is not good. Steel. Not steel. Steel. Not steel. I'm going to have to go through, clean up this general area, figure out what I can use of the Cherokee floor up in the front, figure out what I can use of the Rambler rockers and inner structure at the front. And then I will go ahead and do the same thing to the passenger side front. Moreover, to the end of trying to figure all this junk out, this side is cut completely differently than this side is. I'm going to have to really concentrate on these front fenders and the front sheet metal and then start working my way back because there's aluminum pieces. There's all kinds of, I don't even know. He cut out the structure in this side shock tower and the coil spring brace. I'm going to have to really figure this out before I go too much further, but I'm also going to cut the front floor in the driver's area on the passenger side as well. I could have made that more complicated. The first thing I'm going to do is lock the freaking camera in place. The first thing I'm going to do to address all these shenanigan issues is take the brake pedal assembly out. And you pry that little sucker up and you slide it over that pin. You can take the assembly out. I couldn't get a good angle in the Cherokee interior dismantle video I did to pull the parts I needed for this car. I'll link the video above, but that's how you do it. It's a little better view of it. Same clip, same pedal, same thing. Just move the booster for now. I'm going to have to completely redo the entire brake line, so I'm not worried about it. I'm going to bend it right now because I don't want to lose all the fluid all over the garage. This entire area is just going to have to get cleaned up. It is a freaking mess. It might be a little hard to see, but this inner panel is not attached to the outer panel. That's not great. You can see how chewed up the rocker is. There's some rust. Hopefully I can just clean it up, figure out where it is, just cut out what I need to, because I'm going to have so much more to do in the rocker repairs. I think my first course of action is to take more of that spray foam out, which is a bane of my existence, and then fold some of these pieces out, figure out where I'm actually at. I'm not going to do too much to the body until I actually get a cross spray system set up in here, which I should hopefully be showing you, if not in this video, in the very next one. That was easier than I expected, which doesn't bode well for the rest of the stupidity in here. Let's go ahead and try to bend some of this stuff down, figure out where the heck I'm actually at. Ooh. I hope that's just a natural gap. Doesn't sound like it. Would it really have been that hard to cut this out properly? What the? The sheet metal screws are a nice touch though. At least they're not drywall screws. I'm just gonna cut this chunk out of here so I have more access to see what I can see. I need to try to leave whatever structure there is over here, over there. Still gonna have to come back in and figure out a nice line on here and figure out a way to join these two together. I'm also gonna try to take the stock Cherokee aluminum casting piece that holds the steering column and figure out a way to put it together in here. Don't know how well that's gonna work out, but I need to try because that has the mounts for the steering column. I've needle scaled a bunch of this junk out, cleaned a bunch of it off, found more interesting things. The only other piece of the body I'm gonna cut right now is this junk right here. It's aluminum. I need it out of my way. I'm just gonna take this big piece off here. Eyes are done. Whoa! So is the camera. Okay, let me reposition you a bit here. Yeah, it'll be fine. This might not make a lot of sense right now, but I'm going to come back and peel as much of the stuff down and back. I think I'm going to cut this junk to here, cut these loose pieces off. I need these two to join, so I don't know if I'm going to cut this down and back and make it flatter. I don't know yet. It's going to take a lot of evaluation and figuring out what the best approach is, or at least what the best one I can come up with is. Trying to get some of the bumps out of here and figure out what shape this is actually in. I started peeling back the body caulk / seam sealer to try to figure out what's good metal in this area. I think I'm going to have to come up here and probably crest at this line. This is the driver floor section. That's where I stopped the cut. I'm going to grind this back, hit it with the needle scaler, and see how much of this is actually good. So I might have to replace some of this as well. Oh, I'm glad I ran the needle scaler through here because this is all bad, and every time I touch it, it just gets bigger. So I'm likely going to have to take this back to wherever there's solid metal and peel it up along here and cut it over. Which isn't the worst thing ever because I really would like to bring this back to meet the Rambler body. It'd also give me more tire clearance. I could fit a bigger tire in here. At least at compression. I'm going to keep chipping away at the body caulk on this seam. I need to expose it to see just what other damage might be underneath it that I found from the bottom side. It looks like I found the spot where the rust stops. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to cut this apart. I'm going to strip that body caulk off the passenger side like I did for the driver's side now. Now I know how far the rust goes on the passenger side floorboard as well. Everything I touch just is more work. But hey, I'm still having fun. It's a little more stuff than I wanted it to be, but it's hot rodding, that's car work, that's customizing anything. I do believe that when this thing is done, it will be a nice flagship for my channel and a fun car just to be farting around in. And hopefully it does, you know, a solid 18 at the quarter mile no-name nationals. So that's something to look forward to. I found some more interesting repair work that was done. This was previous to the owner I got it from. This is a lot of sealant and aluminum panels, and I gotta knock all this junk out and figure out where I'm at because this is technically all structural. 3 on a time lapse so you can watch all the junk come off. Certain ways this side is better and worse at the same time. There's not as much rust and rot in certain areas, but there's so much more damage from the way he cut everything up. I'm gonna have to figure out if I'm gonna try to make them the same side to side or close, or just wing it side to side. I definitely want structure, so I'm not sure yet. I'll get that in a minute. This might be too thick to do my roll method. I'm gonna go ahead and check the other side and see what of this, if anything, is over there, because I don't think any of this material is on the other bucket. No, that material is not on the other bucket. I'm gonna go ahead and remove as much of this as I can. I'm having to make some reinforcement brackets and figure out a way to mount the shock, which you can't see because I can't get you over here as much. I just don't have the space on this side of the garage. I'll get you in here to see it at some point and try to explain what I'm thinking. And right now I'm just gonna remove. I've done so much work over the last month, I now can't find tools in a 1.5 car garage, which is extremely strange. I never lose tools. So I guess it's time to lose some 10mm sockets. That'll be next. I'm going to keep peeling as much of this crap off as I can, and I'll have to come back in here and cut some of this inner wheel housing out. Unfortunately, it looks like the camera didn't turn on when I cut this out, so this is a dramatic reenactment. After comparing the passenger side and the driver's side and referencing my 2000 Cherokee in the driveway, I decided what I'm going to do, rather than beating my brain against the wall, is go ahead and flatten this back out with a hammer and then trim it so that it's even. I'll use it for reinforcement. Trim off what I have to up here, get rid of some of it, make it as even as I can. Once I get this squared away, I'm gonna come in, trim this off, and then start trimming this stuff back, because most of this flooring is not gonna be usable. But I've gotta get this junk and this chunk out of here and figure out how I'm gonna re-secure this into something in here, because I need that for the stability of the shock as well, because that's structural for the shock. They're not gonna be the same side to side, there's just no way around it. The way he cut everything up is so different. I'm going to use as much of it as I can here and use as much of it as I can on the driver's side and make it look as good as humanly possible. I'm going to use a combination of the air saw and the cutoff wheel and probably even the Sawzall to get this thing sliced up. So I'll show you as much of it as I can. stop for now. It's looking pretty good. I need to get some actual measurements and get the body in place on the chassis before I do any more cutting, unless I have to get something out of the way. The footage where I explain what I'm doing to the floor in the rear of the Cherokee around the wheel wells for the body got lost in the shuffle. Basically, I'm trimming it back at that body flange, and that's the footage you'll see next. This wasn't the most exciting shots, and sorry, it's probably looked like crap when I edit it. 2/3 of this is out, and that was the big thing. I'm not gonna be able to get too much more of this out until I figure out what I'm doing with that rear spring pocket. I'm getting everything cut to the point where I have to stop on both sides. There isn't enough space on this side of the vehicle with the shelving and everything else I have, so what I'm gonna do is put you here, and hopefully you can see the saw blade whizzing through the top in high speed. Both sides of the floor at the rear wheel wells is cut as far as I can cut it for the time being. Little sneak peek of what I plan to do with the Chambler in the future. Future tire size versus current tire size. Just a tiny bit of difference. Thanks for watching this episode of the Chambler build series. The next video will be welding, cutting, sparks, things get moved around. And I'm finally at a point where this stuff starts to get moved around and leveled out. See some interesting stuff in the next couple of videos. I really hope you follow along. I appreciate all the new subscribers. Let me know what you want to see. Like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell wherever that is. See you next time. Thanks. They're not going to be the sides same to same.